Deep within an old forest, shrouded in the eternal shadow of towering trees, lay an abandoned village. Legends told of people who once lived there, but all had vanished, as if the earth had swallowed them whole. Locals avoided the place, spinning tales of ghosts and dark forces that haunted the woods. Yet for a young researcher named Andrei, it was an enticing destination, full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Andrei had always been fascinated by myths and legends. He lived in a small town nearby and spent every summer exploring forests and mountains, noting his findings in a journal. That year, his attention was drawn to this very village, which he had heard about from the elderly. The legends promised countless discoveries, and Andrei was ready to risk it all for answers. One morning, after preparing for the journey, he set out. After making his way through the dense forest, he finally stumbled upon the old, moss-covered houses. The wooden structures appeared untouched for decades. A cold wind swept through, and Andrei felt a strange sensation, as though someone was watching him. But determined, he continued his exploration. The first thing he noticed were strange symbols carved into the doors and walls. They resembled markings he'd seen in archaeological books. Something inside him hinted that these symbols could be the key to the village's mystery. He pulled out his journal and began taking notes. As he moved through one of the huts, Andrei found an old photograph. It showed a group of people standing in front of a building that was once the village church. Their faces were cheerful, but there was a shadow of worry in their eyes. Andrei's curiosity deepened. Why had they vanished? What had happened to them? As he ventured further into the village, he noticed the forest growing eerily quiet. The rustling of leaves and the songs of birds had ceased, leaving only the hollow echo of his footsteps. This silence amplified his anxiety, but Andrei pressed on. He entered the dilapidated church and discovered it was filled with strange artifacts. At the center of the altar stood a tall statue, depicting a woman with outstretched arms, as if beckoning to him. Suddenly, Andrei heard a faint whisper, seemingly coming from behind the walls. He froze, trying to locate the source of the sound. It's just the wind, he told himself, though his heart pounded in his chest. Slowly, he began to move toward the exit, but just then, a shadow, barely visible out of the corner of his eye, made him stop. Turning around, Andrei saw a figure standing in the darkness. It was small, with long arms and empty eyes that glowed in the dim light. Fear gripped him, and he bolted for the exit without looking back. He ran through the village, but everything now seemed different. The trees rustled, as if mocking his fear. He continued running until he found himself by an old well. Looking up, Andrei noticed dark clouds gathering above, and suddenly a heavy rain began to fall. Blinded by the downpour, he saw the figure appear behind him again. Panicking, he ran in another direction, but his foot became stuck in the mud, and he fell. When he got up, he realized that shadows were gathering around him. There were many, and they were closing in. "Don't be afraid," a whisper came, and the figures began to rise. Andrei felt himself losing consciousness, overcome by an endless cold. When he regained consciousness, he found himself back in the same church where it had all begun. The female statue stood before him, but now it seemed alive. "You came seeking answers, and now you are one of us," it said. Andrei tried to stand, but his body would not respond. He realized that he would remain in this forgotten world, among the shadows of those who had disappeared. And as this understanding sank in, his face contorted in terror. For the last time, he closed his eyes, and the world around him descended into darkness.